Welcome to She Sells Radio, my friend. It is so good to be here with you today. And if you are joining me as this is coming out, you may have noticed that we have stopped the daily podcast for a bit. Now, I shared about that on my list and I shared about it on social, kind of the why. I'll give just a little bit of context here, and then I want to dive into a conversation about how to increase the flow of money in your life, because I know my community. I'm guessing that's something you're interested in as we head into the new year. Again, if you're listening in real time, but if you've been part of the community for a while, I'm so grateful for you. And we're kind of on a bit of a roll with the daily shows. And what I have found in my life is anytime something starts to feel like a should, it's no longer really aligned. And I also have given myself permission to not do things out of obligation, but do things because they truly feel good to me in the moment. Now, it's not to say I don't follow through on my commitments at all. Like, if you know me, if you are connected to me, that's the case. And what I was finding with the daily shows, because podcasting is my joy. If I could do there's a couple things I would love to do every single day. Podcasting is one of them. Coaching is one of them. I love that. I love content creation. I love time with my family. I love working with my clients. Podcasting is such a joy. And it's a decent amount to crank out a show every day. When you're running with a relatively small team like we do. And so as we completed the year and I was really looking at in my life, what feels good and what feels heavy. One of the things that was feeling heavy was having to do a show every day. And even notice my language around that, right? It's not that I don't love showing up for you, because I do, but I was noticing it was feeling like something I had to do. And I know that anytime we're in that energy, we're not creating most powerfully. And so I decided that what I wanted to do was really show up to you from a place of inspiration here on the show, and really show up to you, even if it is a less frequent. I think we're still going to be about once a week. But even if it's less frequent, have it be really from my heart, the latest downloads, the latest, what am I feeling inspired about, lit up about, passionate about, and trusting that that's going to be good enough. And so that's what we're doing. So with that, where was I going to go with that? Pregnancy brain, here we go. So I am going to be doing mostly solo episodes for you for the next few months. And then we have some amazing, amazing interviews lined up for you once our little guy comes, with just some phenomenal individuals. And so you'll kind of notice there's a rhythm and a cadence that we're working with over these next few months as we prepare for baby to come. But one thing that's important for me is to always show up for you, and also to be really honest about what's going on in my life and where I'm at, and hopefully modeling for you what it looks like to give yourself permission to have seasons in your life, and to really honor what that season is as well. So with that, I was looking back over our top rated episodes on the show and just thinking about what is it that it seems like most of you want to know more about, and what are the most popular types of topics? And when I was looking at it, it's interesting because some of them were definitely on the sales front. So prospecting and lead gen are generally pretty popular topics. So I've actually got some really good interviews lined up for you coming up while I'm gone on maternity leave, with true experts in that space who are just brilliant and sharing a lot of really, really good advice. And then outside of that, it was you all want the mindset. You want the energy pieces, you want money. And so I thought, you know what? I had gotten a DM from somebody in the community recently, and she was like, I feel like my money is in a holding pattern right now. And it inspired me to want to record this episode for you to help you kind of dig in that if money isn't flowing in your business, in your career, in your life the way you want it to, what can be some of the underlying things that you can shift to help get that flow moving again in your life? And so, even as I say this, it's like I'm thinking about, oh my gosh, there's so many other things that that I want to add onto this list. So I wrote down 3 reasons. I may end up giving you 5 reasons actually, as I think about this. So let's just dive in, and we're going to roll with this. So this is not an original reason I wrote down for you, but I did just think about it as I said that. Is I want you to notice if you're gripping. Like, are you gripping in any way, shape, or form to money? If you're gripping, it's not going to flow. Like, it just can't. So I want you to notice, are you wanting a lot to come into you, but you're like, oh, I can't flow any out. I don't want to give. I don't want to invest in myself. I don't want to like you're in that energy of holding back. Well, guess what? If we do that, we're literally clogging up the flow of money, because I've used this analogy, and this is not my original analogy, like, I don't know whose this is, but closed fists, right? If we're gripping so hard, there's no space for anything new to come in. And so that's the first thing to notice is, am I gripping? Am I holding back on flowing money out for fear that more won't come back? And so super, super powerful when you're investing money, when you're spending money, like always in that energy of, there's so much more of this to come back to me. I'm so grateful, and doing it from that space of feeling connected and feeling in flow to something greater, and feeling, how do I want to say it? Like really thinking about, how is that money that you're flowing out blessing the person on the other side? Whether it's, you think about, maybe you don't know them, but you're paying bills and you're like, okay, this money is going to be blessing someone and their family. It's going to give them the ability to maybe send their kids to school this month or put food on the table. And just when we remember that we're all connected, and we remember that what we flow out does come back to us energetically, it's a really powerful shift. The number 2 thing I would look at is, are there ways in which you're not valuing yourself enough right now? And this is something that even in my own life, like I continue to notice ways that I was unconscious to for my whole life, where I wouldn't value myself. And then now it's kind of like, and I know there's so many levels of awareness and consciousness beyond where I am right now. I think because of this is, we're always evolving. I think I'm probably at my highest level of consciousness of myself, like at this point in my life. I notice all of these ways in the past in which I didn't value myself. And so check in with, are you saying yes to what you want to say no to? Are you undercharging? Are you taking on clients that frankly don't feel good to you? I was doing this process with a private client a little while back, where we were almost like pruning the clients that she was working with, because there were a lot who were just like leeching energy and wanting to, and they were crossing boundaries, and they were asking for more than what they paid for. And I get it, because I encouraged her to release, like either to renegotiate boundaries or release some of the clients that she just knew she was done with. And there can be a level of fear to that. I totally get it, because the thought process can be, well, who else is going to come in and replace them? Here's the thing. If you are letting clients, people, opportunities, situations, circumstances in your sphere that don't value you, they literally are taking up space from someone who would value you. And it was so cool, because it didn't take like any time at all. We were just on another call this past week, and she was like, I have so many dream opportunities coming in. Like, she can't even keep up with them. She's having to turn away things that would have been literally the dream opportunity even 6 months ago, because she's been willing to stand in her power and set really, really good boundaries with clients. So Where are you being invited to step up how you value yourself? Where are you available for what you don't actually want to be available for? And where do you get to set some deeper boundaries energetically with the people in your life, your clients, et cetera? And are you, we always get what we're available for. So I would also look at with your financial situation, like, have you been available to have it not be, whoop, that was loud, sorry. Have you been available for it to not be how you want? Right. And really think about that. Like, whatever your financial situation is right now, at its root, it's because you're available for it. Whether it's you have been available to be in debt and it doesn't really feel that good, and you're saying you don't want to be in debt anymore, but like you're still there, right? And it's not about judging. It's not about making yourself wrong at all. There are many times in my life when like I've leveraged debt to get to where I need to be. So it's not a judgment on it. I'm just using an example because I know sometimes when women come in, they're like, I want to pay off X amount of debt, right? But until you just don't even identify or associate anymore with that being a part of your reality, it will continue to be your reality. So what would it look like for you to value yourself so much, if that is important to you to pay off debt? What would it look like for you to value yourself so much that it's just not even a thing for you anymore? It's like, of course you don't have it, right? Of course you pay your cards in full every month, or maybe whatever the minimum amount is in your bank account. Like for me, I remember this was, oh my gosh, I don't know, 15 years ago. It's been a while, but I was, this is like back when I was single, I was dating someone, and he, like, I'd never heard this concept, but he was like, I never go below $1,000 in my checking account. And to me at the time, I was like, oh, like he must be rich. I was like, that wasn't why I was dating him, by the way. But I remember being like, that's interesting. I never thought about that. And in that moment, I just decided, well, I want that to be my rule too. Right. And then over time, that number has gone up. But like I had been available to not have that, and to have overdrafts, and to have money come, because I just didn't see myself. I didn't value myself yet to the extent where I just always had it like a cushion. And again, that cushion grows and evolves as you grow and evolve. But it's all like, I would really, really look at, are there ways in which I'm not valuing myself? And if so, like once you start to really increase your expectations for yourself in terms of how much you always have, how money works for you, how it flows in your life, you'll start to notice shifts in that, because you will get what you believe to be true for yourself. The third reason you may be kinking the hose a bit with money is if you're attached to how it has to come. And I had a client, this was last year, I think, for her, where she wanted to have a $30,000 month, and she was newer in her business. And I'm all about like, I'm not going to put a limit on what you can do ever. So we were talking about like being in the energy of it. What would it look like for her to do it? Like doing the mindset work. Like she put the tactical plan in place. She was doing it. And she told me at the end of the month, she was like, well, it didn't come in through my business. Like I didn't have a $30,000 month in my business. And she said, but you'll never believe what happened. Her husband that month had a $30,000 month of sales commission in his career. The money came in a different way than how she had expected. But at the end of the day, the money came in, and that's how it works. So if you're very committed to, it has to come in this one particular way, and that's it, and that's the only way you can imagine it happening, you're cutting off possibility. So I'd really be in that energy of an availability of just feeling it already done, not caring about the how, not worrying about the how, not caring whether it comes through your business or through something else. And I totally get it. Like I work with a lot of women in the community where they have specific goals for their business. And that is like, of course, that's a big thing we work on, is bumping up your revenue. And when you're really just open and you're like, I'm so available for this to come anyway, that's when it happens in unexpected ways. That's when it comes through a partner. If it's not meant to come through your business that month, that's when it comes through an unexpected check in the mail and inheritance. Like, this is how it works. So we really, if we're so committed to it, has to come in this one way, we shut off all the other options for ways in which it can come. Your fourth reason it may not be coming through the way you'd like it to is you are, how do I want to say this? Your thoughts are those of someone who doesn't have it already. Now, I know that may sound like really obvious, like, well, of course it's not there yet. So of course I'm thinking about it not being there, but I'm here to tell you this is the key, and this is the work. And it's like the hardest work because it requires you to really be conscious of your thoughts, but it also gets to be like the most fun and the easiest work once you start to see how it actually works in your life, is notice, am I thinking thoughts of how am I going to get this money? Like, is my brain on a constant loop about how this money is going to come in? And would someone who has actually achieved the money goal that I have right now, would her brain be on a constant loop about that? No, right? What would she be thinking about? I actually took my 50K Club Mastermind through this process the other day, because they're all going for, 50K months. Some of them are going for 100K months. This year, just a side note, we're going to launch the 100K Club this year, which I'm excited about. I don't know when, but we need to do it because we've got enough women in the community who are hitting their 50K months. And it's time to elevate. So stay tuned for that. But so right now we've got women in that community who are going for 50K months, for 100K months. And so they are they're working on aligning their thoughts and belief systems to actually match those of a woman who has that result. And so, and one of the women even said, she was like, I'm noticing as soon as I wake up in the morning, my brain is kind of going into problem solving mode, and it's going into a bit of the how, which I totally get. I have had my brain on that loop. I understand. And if you want a powerful tool to start shifting the energy and start shifting your circumstances, start catching, when am I thinking a thought that the version of me who has the goal I want, she wouldn't actually be thinking about? So what would the woman who has the result you're looking for, like, what would she be thinking about? Would she be thinking about how to get the money? No, she'd be thinking about, now that it's here, what am I going to do with it? How am I going to spend it? How am I going to invest it? How am I going to do good with it in the world? What am I going to give? Like, what am I going to flow out? What am I going to save for my family? Like, how am I going to grow and invest in my business or in my career? So you want to notice, when am I thinking those old thoughts that put me back into the old personality, the old version of me who doesn't have that result created yet? And if you want to create a new reality around yourself, you literally are going to have to become someone new. This is how it works. And we become someone new by catching the old conditioning, by catching the old thought patterns, by catching the old emotional addictions and triggers around lack or not enoughness. And in that moment, consciously saying, now, and this is kind of how I think, like, now that this is done, how am I thinking? How am I feeling? How am I showing up? And then you literally just do that. And you'll be amazed when you do that. Not only will things just feel like they're coming to you because your energy is in alignment with what you want to create, but you're also going to start getting ideas, downloads, inspirations for what you should do that will actually get you to that end outcome. But the key is you got to start thinking like that, and then you've got to hold it. So it's not to say you have to be perfect with it. We all, like, when you're really raising your level of consciousness around to match a new result you want to create, you're going to slip backwards. You've got these old neural pathways that you fired and wired for years that have very well-worn grooves in your brain that it's easy to fire a thought down of lack or fear or not enoughness if those are the thoughts you've been firing. And it's just like if a road wasn't driven down for a long amount of time and wasn't taken care of, eventually, like, it would just kind of shut down, right? Like it would get, actually a road's not a good example. Let's use the example of like a hiking path in the forest, right? If it wasn't cleared, if it wasn't taken care of, if people didn't go down it, eventually it would just get overgrown and it, like no one would go down it anymore. Well, it's the same with the neural pathways in your brain. The more you consciously stop the thought and decide you're going to fire a new thought of what would I be thinking about if this were already created in my life, you're going to start to carve out that new path in the forest, and the old one over time will get thrown over. And it doesn't have to take that long either if you're conscious about it, right? If you're really intentional about it. I've had things happen in a day after shifting my thought pattern and shifting my focus. I'll share this. I set an intention last night that I wanted to have something happen with money that had never happened for me before. And the energy around it was clear. I wasn't super attached to it, but I was also excited about it. And it literally happened overnight. And it was like, oh, that's fun. Like it can happen so fast. And sometimes it takes a bit longer, right? Because you've been really going down a certain pathway for a long time. It's like you've been hiking that trail for a long time. You're going to hike a new trail. It's going to take a little bit of clearing, but research shows it really takes an average. And again, it's different depending on how long like something has had a grip on you, but an average of like 60 days max to really shift a habit. That can be a habit of thinking. That can be a habit of how you show up when you're intentional about it, right? So think about it. The time is going to pass anyway. What if you went all in for the next 60 days on just saying, I'm shifted, like I'm done showing up this way in my old reality, and I'm going to shift. I'm going to use this time intentionally to really shift my circumstances by consciously practicing new thoughts of someone who has the result that I want. And that's how this is how it works. This is how it happens. So what would you be thinking about if the money was already here? And again, not making yourself wrong, but just noticing, am I on a loop? Am I in spin? Am I consistently thinking about the money not being there? Well, guess what? That's what you're going to get because that's what you're thinking about. So instead, what would you think about if it were here? And even beyond that, even more important, how would you feel? Because the feeling really is the key to all of this. So how would you feel? Relaxed, abundant, worthy, prosperous, right? Creative. And even thinking about if fear around money was not even part of my consciousness, like it just wasn't even who I was. Even if this has been a reality in my life for as long as I can remember, if it wasn't, what would I be thinking about today? How would I be showing up? What would I be doing differently? What would I be focused on? You'd probably be focused on things like giving, right? You'd probably be focused on how you could show up and serve. You'd probably be focused on having fun. You'd probably be focused on experiences. And we have to notice and just be aware that oftentimes it's all subconscious. Okay. But us, like you not allowing enough money to flow into your life can be a very cleverly disguised defense mechanism against you showing up in your full power. And that is the type of work and the thing we want to become very aware of. And what I do with my clients too is help to notice, like, where are you trying to protect yourself? Or where is the uncomfortableness, the discomfort, the fear with more money coming in, even if you don't consciously realize that. But it's like, if it doesn't come in and you just get to stay stuck in this loop of like, how am I going to pay for things? And where's the money coming from? You get to keep playing small to a certain extent. If that was no longer a part of your reality, because that isn't the part of reality for a lot of people, like, what would your life look like? And who would you be? Who would you have to be in that case? And I want you to really start to get intimately familiar with that version of you, because she's already in there. And that's the version who has everything you want. And then the final, this is like a bonus. I think this is number 5. I kind of lost track. If you've ever read the book, The Having, phenomenal book, by the way. One of the things that she says is that sometimes before a large amount comes in, there is a bit of a pause. And in my experience, every time I was being called to go to another level in terms of how I show up, my level of consciousness, there would be this kind of moment of, okay, you get to get really in alignment with this next version of you in order for this next level result to come in. And that can feel like, doesn't have to, but it can feel like a pause in the flow of resources. And what I've found, just again, in my experience, is that it's always an invitation to go inside and look at, what am I being invited to release, to drop, to no longer identify with for the evolution of who I am on this planet and how I show up and how I serve? It's always an invitation to go inward. It's never about this is how often we'll approach it, is like, oh, I got to hustle harder. I got to push. I got to do more. Been there, done that, tried. It only makes things worse. Like, it really does. So the invitation is to go inward and get really clear on, who am I being invited to become in this moment? And a lot of times too, it's about noticing, like, you generate abundance and wealth from within you. It's not something you get from outside of you. It's something that you consciously can generate from who you are being. And we can forget that. Right. And we get grabby and we're like, oh my gosh, if I don't sign this client, or if I don't do this thing, like, our brain starts to, again, go on that old loop. That's not the right path. So the invitation is to pause and go inward and to say, what are the qualities that are being asked to be developed in me right now? How am I being invited to show up differently? How am I being invited to up level my thinking, my feeling, my actions? And then from that place, as you start to show up as a different person, again, your financial situation changes, your financial circumstances shift. Everything around you will start to mirror who you're being in a different way. But just knowing, sometimes before a large amount comes in, there is a bit of a pause. To me, it's a refining season. And it doesn't have to be long. When I say season, it could be a day, it could be an hour, it could be a week. I think we make it take longer than it needs to because we get in fear about it. So again, if you know what's going on, you can work with it. You can work with it more powerfully. So these are the things. And I hope this serves you. So quick recap. So number 1, are you gripping it? These are the reasons money may not be flowing in your life the way you want. Number 1, are you gripping it? Number 2, where do you need to up level how you value yourself? Number 3, are you attached to how it comes? Number 4, is your brain constantly on a loop thinking about it not being there? Well, that doesn't match the thoughts of someone who has the result you're looking for. And then number 5, are you being invited to stop and pause and go within and see how it's time for you to up level so that that next amount can come in greater quantities? So those are some things to check in with. And again, there's always, there's other reasons too. It can be happening, but it's like when you truly, truly know everything is happening for your good. And when you also truly, truly know that everything is an invitation to up level your consciousness, like everything that feels tough or hard or challenging is an invitation for you to up level your consciousness, your way of being, how much you value yourself. We start to get the clues, and we don't have to go through these challenges the same way anymore. And so, my friend, with that, just quickly as we close out here, I want to also just let you know that it is my passion, my heart, my soul to empower you to achieve the business and the revenue results that you're looking for, realizing that you don't have to hustle your way to get there. You don't have to push your way to get there. You don't have to do things that feel gross or unnatural to you, to your clients to get there. So much of what's taught in the business and the sales world is just like oh, it just doesn't feel good to anyone. And it really comes from that mindset of lack. And so we've got two different communities right now. They always say, don't talk about two things at once, but I've got two communities. So I'm going to briefly share with you about them, and you are smart enough to self-select. So two different communities right now that I would invite you to look into if you are seeking more support in this area. And when I say community, I actually mean very robust coaching programs and masterminds. So one is the 10K Club. So this is for you if you are a female entrepreneur, sales professional, career woman who wants to start hitting 10K plus months. It's really, really cool. We're actually making even more improvement. And we just rolled out some amazing new things to the women in this community over the past few weeks. And we are elevating so much of the experience this year too. So it's going to be phenomenal. It's already phenomenal. It's going to keep getting more phenomenal. So ElyseArcher.com/10K Club. It's kind of like an incubator accelerator for you to start hitting your 10K plus months. And then the 50K Club is if you are already at the 6-figure level and you are ready to start making 50K plus months, and you're ready to really see how good life can get at that level. And that is my high level mastermind. You can check it out, ElyseArcher.com/50K Club. Both of those, I did want to come on and share today, because if you're listening in real time, both of those, the pricing on those is going to go up in a couple of weeks. So it's a really good time that if you've been kind of on the fence, you're like, I don't know. Now is the time to get in. So you can check out both of those pages. There's instructions on what to do from there if you feel aligned. I hope this episode served you. And I'm really curious to know what showed up for you as you listen. So you can always send me a DM. I'm at Elyse Archer on all platforms. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was from this. What are you going to be applying and implementing? So much love to you, my friend. And I'll see you on our next